Howdy, and welcome to the electric universe once again. Unilad. People terrified after hearing noise Aurora Borealis makes. People are discovering the noise Aurora Borealis, also known as the Northern Lights, and they are understandably terrified. Listen to the audio below, and you're feeling brave. Okay, now to something weird. For this we go to phys.org. This is now already 22 hours old. Live. Or let's start here with physics and general physics. Life. Modern physics can't explain it, but our new theory, which says time is fundamental, might. Bird. Over the short span of just 300 years since the invention of modern physics, we have gained a deeper understanding of how our universe works on both small and large scales. Yet physics is still very young, and when it comes to using it to explain life, physicists struggle. Even today, we can't really explain what the difference is between a living lump of matter and a dead one. My colleagues and I are creating a new physics of life that might soon provide answers. More than 150 years ago, Darwin poignantly noted the dichotomy between what we understand in physics and what we observe in life, noting that at the end of the origin of species, whilst this planet has gone cycling and according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning endless forms most beautiful, most wonderful have been and are being evolved. The importance of time. Isaac Newton described a universe where the laws never change, and time is an immutable and absolute backdrop against which everything moves. Darwin, however, observed a universe where endless forms are generated, each changing features of what came before, suggesting that time should not only have a direction, but that in some ways folds back on itself. New evolutionary forms can only arise via selection on the past. Presumably, these two areas of science are describing the same universe, but how can two such diametrically opposite views be unified? The key to understanding why life is not explainable in current physics may be to reconsider our notions of time as the key difference between the universe as described by Newton and that of Darwin. Time has, in fact, been reinvented many times through the history of physics. Although Newton's time was fixed and absolute, Einstein's time became a dimension, just like space. And just as all points in space exist all at once, so do all points in time. This philosophy of time is sometimes referred to as the block universe, where the past, present, and future are equally real and exist in a static structure with no special now. In quantum mechanics, the passage of time emerges from how quantum states change from one to the next. The invention of thermodynamics gave time its arrow, explaining why it's moving forward rather than backwards. That's because there are clear examples of systems in our universe, such as a working engine, that are irreversible, only working in one direction. Each new area of fundamental physics, whether describing space and time, Newton, Einstein, matter and light, quantum mechanics, or heat and work, thermodynamics, has introduced a new concept of time. But what about evolution and life? To build novel things, evolution requires time. Endless novelty can only come to be in a universe where time exists and has a clear direction. Evolution is the only physical process in our universe that can generate a succession of novel objects we associate to life. Things like microbes, mammals, trees, and even cell phones. Information and memory. Such objects cannot fluctuate into existence spontaneously. They require a memory, based on what existed in the past, to construct things in the present. It is such selection that determines the dividing line between the universe described by current physics and what Darwin saw. It is the mechanism that turns a universe where memory does not matter in determining what exists to one where it does. Think about it. Everything in the living world requires some kind of memory and information flow. The DNA in our cells is our blueprint. And to invent new things, such as rockets or medication, living beings also need information, knowledge of the laws of physics and chemistry. To explain life, we therefore need to understand how the complex objects life creates exist in time. With my collaborators, we have been doing just that in a newly proposed theory of physics called assembly theory. A key conjecture of assembly theory is that, as objects become more complex, the number of unique parts that make it up increases. So does the need for local memory to store how to assemble the object from its unique parts. We quantify this in assembly theory as the shortest number of physical steps to build an object from its elementary building blocks called the assembly index. Importantly, assembly theory treats this shortest path as an intrinsic property of the object. And indeed, we have shown how assembly index can be measured for molecules using several different measuring techniques, including mass spectrometry, an analytical method to measure the mass-to-charge ratio of molecules. I say it again, to measure the mass-to-charge ratio of molecules, because gravity is tied to charge. Gravity is just a byproduct of electromagnetism. But anyway, I told you there's something weird coming. With this approach we have shown in the lab, with measurements on both biological and non-biological samples, how molecules with an assembly index above 15 steps are only found in living samples. This suggests that assembly theory is indeed capable of testing our hypothesis that life is the only physics that generates complex objects. And we can do so by identifying those objects that are so complex the only physical mechanism to form them is evolution. We are aiming to use our theory to estimate when the origin of life happens by measuring the point at which molecules in a chemical soup become so complex that they start using information to make copies of themselves. The threshold at which life arises from non-life. We may then apply the theory to experiments aiming to generate a new origin of life event in the lab. And when we know this, we can use the theory to look for life on worlds that are radically different to Earth, and may therefore look so alien that we wouldn't recognize life there. If the theory holds, it will force a radical rethink on time in physics. According to our theory, assembly can be measured as an intrinsic property for molecules which correspond to their size in time. Meaning, time is a physical attribute. Ultimately, time is intrinsic to our experience of the world, and it is necessary for evolution to happen. If we want physics to be capable of explaining life and us, it may be that we need to treat time as a material property for the first time in physics. This is perhaps the most radical departure for physics of life from standard physics, but maybe the critical insight needed to explain what life is. Meaning time is a physical attribute. No! Yeah, that's like black holes and the Big Bang, and now it seems they're like bright black holes. They found 75,000 bright black holes. And they created black holes in the laboratory, and all of a sudden it started to glow. I don't know, I don't remember exactly how it went, but quartz, silica, it has this certain special frequency. That's why we use it in clocks. I should maybe have looked it up, but it just came to my mind now. But it's about the frequency of quartz, which in a way determines the second. I think I made videos about this, but for this moment, at the moment, I'm not able to remember that. But anyway, if you have this kind of old school watch at home, which is hanging on the wall, which uses a battery, and you hear the click every second, which is very annoying. I hate to hear this kind of clocks. I don't want to hear any second. But anyway, very often there is some text, and very often it says just quartz. And there is the other very common brand for clocks, which is Casio. Many of you are quite familiar with that. Like back in the days when people still used wrist watches. Yeah, actually, they still use it today in France. But anyway, Casio, calcium, silica, and aluminium. Casio. No, it's oxygen. Casio. Calcium, silica, oxygen. In plain sight all the time, the chemical formula of the frequency or of the material from which we gained our second. But the thought to have that time would be a physical attribute. Just think of one thing. If you are in a hurry and really need to go to a toilet, but there's someone already there, and you have to wait for it, let's say 2 minutes, it seems to be an endless time. And if you have the possibility to do something what you really like, some hobby, riding bikes, or whatsoever, 2 minutes is by far not enough to do anything. Because in the moment you start doing something, your perception of time will change immediately. And there would be hundreds of millions of examples of the same thing. Like, for example, for me, sometimes it feels like a second making a video, and then I notice, like this time, 16 minutes already. It doesn't feel like this for me. I just think how it would feel for someone else, like, listening 16 minutes to some random dude somewhere talking about strange things. Could be too much, very much too much. Many people nowadays, they cannot concentrate for 2 minutes or longer. It's just like, they can't. They don't have the inner calmness or inner peace or whatsoever. The ability to focus for a prolonged moment in time. 16 minutes, I don't have time for that. Everybody's in a hurry. But anyway, just think about that. And soon they are measuring planets in time, mass. What? This planet is 3,600 years in mass. Yeah, I would like to buy 1 kilogram of time from the grocery store. Yeah, first of all, that's also oxymoroning. They were mentioning some theories. Where was it? I try to be quick and end this video very soon. Spectrometry. They were mentioning some of those here. Whether describing space and time, Newton and Einstein, matter and light, quantum mechanics, or heat and work, thermodynamics. Where is electromagnetism? It's not mentioned anywhere. Except where it's, in a way, hidden. And they were measuring it. They say it by themselves, which is very funny. Here it is. The mass to charge ratio of molecules, or the mass to charge ratio in general. Consider Earth. Back in the days we had the dinosaurs, they were very big. They make calculations that if anyone could recreate a brontosaurus, for example, like just one of those really big ones, which roamed on the lands, they would collapse under their own weight, because they are just simply too big. They wouldn't. The gravity would be too strong. They would just like a shark on the land. They would just collapse, die. But they roamed the earth. They found them, fossilized. Which would be, or which is actually a rather good indicator that Earth is growing. In other words, back in the dinosaurs' time, Earth was much smaller. So the actual pull of gravitation, which is some 9.82 or something meters per second square, I don't know. It was less. It was like Not like on the moon that you could jump around on the moon, but something like in between, in a way. And in other words, we had also much more CO2, so the plants had very much food to eat. And gravitation was not a really big problem, so they could grow very big. And over time, Earth grew. In other words, it got more mass, a stronger gravitational pull, which is tied to the charge of the body. Since it's bigger, it has more charge. But anyway, I'm drifting off. I just wanted to share these few odd things with you. Yeah, I have something else to share as soon as it is available somehow. I just. Anyway, thanks. Bye.